Can you live with it? And if not, what are you going to do about it? I said this to a client in a coaching call last year, and I didn't expect how much it would change not just her, but also me. Welcome to the Confident at Work podcast. I'm your host and your confidence coach, Anna Manning. So, the story behind that question was this client, my client Alice, had been told by her boss, "No, I don't think you should apply for promotion this time." She needed her boss's approval to actually put in her application. And in her mind, she'd been working towards this promotion for quite a long time. So understandably, she feels really upset, super discouraged, and she happens to come to the coaching call with me 48 hours before the application deadline. So from the outside, it looks like the door for that promotion for an entire year is closing. She was upset. She'd been working hard, she'd been showing up, she'd been creating and collating the evidence that she met all of the criteria that she needed to meet in order to demonstrate that she was ready, in order to apply for this promotion. And there's different ways that coaching can go. When you're upset, when you're disheartened, discouraged, disappointed, I can sympathize with that as your coach. I get it. Like, I can hear those emotions and I can give you space for them. But my job is not just to do that. My job is also to challenge. And so I did. And that's why I asked her that question. Well, can you live with it? And if not, what are you going to do about it? And I watched her face in that moment after I asked that question go from something like defeated and disheartened and upset, understandably, to something else, some kind of glint in her eyes, some kind of something in her face that showed me that she'd just taken hold of an idea of the situation, of what was happening. And she moved from stuck and disheartened and disappointed at being told no, right? She'd had a big setback and it looked like the door was closed. But she said, well, I've still got 48 hours. And what she did next shocked and amazed me. She decided on that call, in that moment, that she was going to go for it anyway. She'd already been preparing her application, so she was going to carry on. She was going to ensure that she met every single criteria that she'd been asked to meet and that everything was laid out perfectly. She was going to reach out to other people for support, right? Because she needed support to make this application. So she started ringing around. She got support from other people. She pushed through all of the obstacles, the hurdles that she needed to push through in that 48 hours, only 48 hours. And guess what happened? She did it. Ultimately, she gets the approval. She gets the application in. Now, I don't find this out until she comes back for our next coaching call. And I was amazed. She'd been told no, but it wasn't the end. She didn't just let her head go down. She got to work. She got into action and she went for it, big style, until the final whistle. And there was a bit of a work reality check in there because she had had the belief, which like a lot of us do, that if I do good work, I'll be noticed and I'll be rewarded and I'll be, allowed access to promotion and all the rest of it. But in reality, that is not always how the work world works. It's not like just a kind of fair, level playing field where people are just going to notice what you do and take account of that and promote you for it or give you opportunities because of it. In the real world, in the work world, sometimes you've got to advocate for yourself. You've got to push for recognition. You've got to make your case visible. You've got to state it strongly. You've got to get over hurdles, maybe like someone telling you no, or maybe not now. Good work is not always enough. And that self-advocacy, that spirit that she demonstrated in just getting into action, getting to work, and just going through until the final whistle really matters. And I'll give you the spoiler alert now. She got the promotion. She went for the interview. She nailed it. She smashed it out of the park. She got the promotion. Done. She even got her boss's approval for the whole thing. So after that no, after that setback, she turned it around. And it really made me reflect. So I said at the beginning of this episode, I didn't realize how much that coaching that I gave her was going to impact her and what she did next. But I also had no idea when I asked her that question how much it was going to end up influencing me too. Because when we came back for that next coaching call and she told me that she'd gone for it and she'd done it and she'd finally got her boss's approval and she'd got all these other people's approval and she'd put in the application and she'd got an interview, I was amazed, I was delighted. And I realized on reflection after that call that I don't think I would have done what she did. She came to me for help with her confidence, like a lot of professionals do, and we have done great work together. And yet, I don't think, or I didn't think at the time, that I would have done what she did. And it made me reflect on my own patterns in terms of how I dealt with setbacks and, potential for defeats. And I noticed a pattern that I've had since I was probably a kid, right? The first thing that came to mind was I noticed that when I used to play netball when I was a kid. I would play like pretty hard. That was how I played. And yet, when I felt like we were defeated, when we were down, then my head would sometimes go down. When I was a kid, I remember that. I would pull back quietly. You wouldn't always notice, but I would kind of pull back. And I thought all the way to today, right? So that was when I was a kid, but I thought all the way until today. If I set a goal in my business, this is what I was thinking about, and it looked like it was hopeless, I would not keep, to use the kind of sports analogy, playing right until that last whistle. I would not keep my head up and keep playing as hard as I possibly could until the end. That's what Alice did when she got told no. She kept her head up and she kept playing until the last whistle. And she won. From a position where it seemed like she was down, she kept fighting and she won. What was I doing? I was over here setting a goal, and then if it didn't look like it was going to work, if it looked like I was down, being so discouraged that I would mentally pull back. I would be defeated mentally before the whistle's even blown, right before the end of the game. And I realised that I stopped playing before the game was actually over. And Alice didn't. She taught me something really important, that you can keep playing until the final whistle, even if you don't know what the outcome's going to be. She wasn't assured of that outcome. She didn't know whether she was going to be able to make that application. She didn't know whether she was going to be supported to do it. And yet, she kept playing until the final whistle. Part of confidence has to be not just being able to play when things are going your way. It's being able to keep trying and keep taking action, even when things don't go your way, even when it looks like the door's closing, even when it looks like you've lost the game. You keep playing. And if you're thinking of resilience here, so am I. And one of the funniest things about this whole story was one of the things that she'd been asked to work on was her resilience. And can you think of anything more resilient than what she did? She was told no, and she kept going. She kept playing full out until the final whistle. Well, if that isn't resilience, I have no idea what is. Surely resilience is continuing after disappointment. So I set myself a challenge earlier this year. One of the things my coach asked me was, what is the real thing that you're going to come across in completing this challenge? What will the actual difficulty be? And I told her how, and actually this was in front of hundreds of people on a coaching call. I'm going to pour this out. I bawled telling her, and I feel emotional thinking about it now. The challenge for me is going to be keeping on going, even if I don't think that I'm going to succeed, or it looks like I'm not. And I said to her, I've noticed that I've played the game, as it were, this way since I can remember. when I was a kid, when I used to play netball, my head would go down if I thought we were going to lose. And I said to her, just don't want to play the game like that anymore. I'm sick of it. That's not how I want to live. So I made the decision that no matter what happened, my real challenge was to stay committed right until the end. And with Alice in my mind, that's what I did. I don't know if I've told you about this, but I happened to get some amazing coaching from my mom. So I said, well, I'm doing this challenge, Mom, and my real challenge is going to be to not let my head go down and to keep playing until the end. And it kind of got inspired by a client, and then I reflected on my own patterns, and she said, "Oh, well, that's easy. You just need to play like the England women's team instead of the England men's team." So for anyone who knows football, soccer to the Americans, the England women's team, the Lionesses, are known for being able to come back from like 3-0 down and still win the game. They have this amazing mentality, this amazing way of playing. They could play against teams who are technically better than them, and yet the way they play the game and this like never say die attitude, which is basically what it is, very resilient, very strong, even in the face of potential defeat, is what actually makes them play amazingly and what sometimes gets them the actual win. So Alice, my client, she played like the Lionesses in that last 48 hours. And I was like, got this coaching from my mom, the most unusual source of coaching that I did not expect. And then I was like, okay, so I can just play like the Lionesses. Until that last whistle goes, I am on the pitch and I'm going to play all out. And I did. So you might already do this, but if you don't, I wonder what you could learn from Alice. Because we all face moments where we hear no or we get a setback. But what we're in control of is actually what we do next. So if it looks like we're not going to succeed or we get an early no, maybe it doesn't have to become our final answer. Maybe a knockback doesn't need to set us down and send our confidence spiraling. Maybe, just like Alice did and just like I did, we can learn. You can learn how to keep going, how to keep advocating, and how to keep playing until the final whistle. Alice came to me for confidence and left teaching me how to keep playing the game. And that is a lesson which I have now learned for life. So thank you to her. And thank you to you for being with the Confident at Work podcast. We are now almost 4 years old, and we actually have a special promo on because of that. I am doing a special called Podcast on Prescription. There is a link in the show notes. If you go and tap the link and fill out the form, it'll take you about 2 minutes. Tell me about what your confidence challenges are. I am going to reply personally and give you targeted podcast episodes. So there's almost 200 in the archive now. It's a lot. But I'm going to go through and think about what your challenges are, what you're experiencing, and I'm going to give you some targeted episodes that I know are going to help. And if you want to come and work with me to grow your professional confidence, book a call, come and talk to me. The link is in the show notes. And I will see you in next week's episode. Bye.
Confidence, confidence, confident. I can be confident. Confidence, confidence, confident. I can be confident at work.